Okay, thank you everybody for getting back close to time. We will resume our conversation on House Bill 2070, Senate substitute for House Bill 2070. And I think we had to take off to go vote. So I think where we left off, we were talking about subpoena power, but we've had some time to break. Do we have anything from the revisor yet? Not yet. Okay. Let me see. I'm trying to gather my thoughts of where we were to get the bill back. So we were talking about subpoena power and the concerns that I had notated. I don't know. Do you have anything you would like to say to respond to that?
We understand the concerns of the House, and when you have subpoenas, for instance, in the Code of Civil Procedure, there are some processes to quash the subpoena if you receive the subpoena and you deem it's not appropriate. And, I think as a legislature, we always like to make sure that we're fair to both sides and that we have some guardrails in place. So I think we do have the revisor preparing some amendment that you've talked about that maybe would mirror more kind of what we already have in law for serving civil subpoenas. So I guess we'll just wait for whatever that looks like. So the Senate can't really yet respond other than, we'd be willing to take a look at it. Yes, did the revisor have a question?
Jason?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to clarify, I know there are some civil subpoena options. There also is the one in the child in need of care statutes. And I thought that might be the one you were talking about, that there's sort of a model in 3822, I think it's 29, that has a subpoena process that's used in sync cases. And that might be the model I look to.
That was the language that I was comparing it with. Thank you.
I didn't hear you say that earlier.
Well, I don't know that I did.
Okay.
But,
let's take a look at that when that gets ready. So,
okay. My Vice Chair, Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the questions I have is from my experience as an investigator, law enforcement officer. And as an investigator, we had investigative reports that were very specific and limited access until such time as they went to the district attorney's office. And I would tell you that in a civil case, if we're dealing with it, they are not going to release that type of report until it's already been approved by a higher up. The second thing is, it's my understanding the person issuing these subpoenas or requesting them is not an attorney or not required to be an attorney. And I guess in my experience, I prefer to see someone with that legal expertise being the person to review those because they have a lot of standing. And so I shared those with our group. And I think possibly the sync might resolve it. I don't know, but clearly I'd like to take a look at that from my old perspective as actually being the person that had to hand you over the document. Thank you.
Do you have any other issues that you want to?
I think so. I think one of the big items in Senate substitute for House Bill 2070 is not only have we talked a little bit about the qualifications of the child advocate, but who does the appointing of the child advocate? And the base bill that we have, the Senate position is that, like many appointments, it is also done for the child advocate. It would be the governor appoints subject to Senate confirmation. And that's a very usual procedure that we see on. I used to have the list from statute of all the governor appointments that happen that are subject to Senate confirmation, all the way, I think, from the state fire marshal to lots of other positions. And so there is a different proposal in the House bill, but the Senate position is that the governor would appoint. So I didn't know if you wanted to take that up.
Yeah, I think I'll have to talk with my colleagues on that. I think our discussions previously have been that we didn't, we wanted to make sure that there were no politics entering in. And that's can sometimes become a political process with the confirmation. And um, so I'm not prepared to make a decision without conferring, but
Sure. And, I would say it's a pretty firm position of the Senate. And remember, we do have on page 2 of the bill of 2070 the prohibition that the child advocate shall be selected without regard to political affiliation and on the basis of integrity and capacity for effectively carrying out the duties of the office. In addition to, I think you had suggested some other qualifications. We haven't seen the balloon amendment yet. And this is an important position. This person is looking into the welfare of kids, kind of one of our most vulnerable populations. And there needs to be ultimately, however, some accountability. And if we have the governor be accountable, then the governor can also look at, well, if that person's not doing their job, that person can be quickly removed. Or if that person of child advocate is not acting appropriately, and there is some accountability. With a board, there's really no accountability to Kansans, right? Because the governor is accountable to all Kansans, and that would provide the governor would have incentive to pick a good qualified child advocate because that rests on his or her shoulders of who the governor is. So it works in our I could ask the revisor for the list in statute of all the other appointments that are subject to the governor appointing and Senate confirmation. And the process in the Senate position is, if I trying to recall which page that is in the bill. It's, I think, page top of page 2. Yes, the child advocate shall be appointed by the governor and subject to confirmation by the Senate as provided in statute. There's already a process for that. And with Senate confirmation, that provides more accountability to Kansans because you have elected senators sitting there who have to vote on the confirmation as well. And I think with this importance of this office, that it is also important that with the authority this office has, that we have some accountability so that the authority isn't misused and you are, again, accountable to Kansans.
well, with that, we will take that under consideration. I do think that in a perfect world, it works the way that you just stated it. My concern is still that process and some of the political actors that become involved with it when it goes through that process. So we'll have a chat about that. And I don't know, is this a good time to?
Sure. Because we're still waiting for the balloons, which I don't think are being written while we're in committee, but because our revisers are here with us. But so if you want to take a few minutes.
We have another committee today. We are done on the floor today.
We're on at 4:00. I don't think we're voting on anything. We just got a text that we're adjourning at 4:00, but we do have our ranking member, Senator Corson, with a 4:30 conference committee.
Well,
And he has a,
you need to leave at 4.
he'll need to take, our vice chair will need to take a quick break if we're not already recessed or adjourned here at 4, just to gavel out.
Give us a few minutes to confirm.
That'd be great.
Okay. Okay, I don't think we're quite ready to respond to that difference yet. But what I'd like to do is look at this sheet and make sure that we have addressed everything in the side by side. We don't have to read the whole thing, but the first one, definition of a child, we've already settled that. That's house position, correct?
With the 5-year
Okay.
kind of look back.
Representative Ousley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just for clarification, the 5-year would be underneath D, is currently or within the last 5 years was receiving services. That would be the spot where the 5-year look back would apply, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So location, disposition of the office.
And the 5 years is because, you can be in custody for up until you're 23. So yeah. Okay. I don't think we had much disagreement there. So, and the appointment is what we're talking about.
Yes, that
So-
process. And then we've already talked about
Mhm.
the requirements and restrictions for the person. So that's coming. Term. Ours says 4 years, yours says 5 years.
I think the 5 years, if I'm remembering correctly, is with the governor appointing, then you're kind of not having a window of where you have vacancy because the governor changes and the term is over and oh no, we're stuck without a child advocate.
Staggers it a little.
Staggers it, yes. So it doesn't align.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, 5 years or until a successor is appointed and confirmed, because we don't want there to not be another one found and have a vacant office. And I
Okay.
think that's how it is in 2070. It says, I don't know what page, but or until a successor is appointed and confirmed.
Okay. I think we like that. We'll accept the Senate position on that. The House bill did not address the salary. And Senate bill, an amount equal to the annual salary paid by the state to a district court judge. Are you okay with just leaving yours in there?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep. You guys okay? Okay, funding. Okay, so this one, it's kind of irrelevant at this point while we're still trying to decide about the advisory board. Yes, Representative Ousley.
Maybe a question for staff. Are district court judges paid same amount in district by district?
Jason?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, it's set for all district court judges, so it doesn't vary by district.
Okay. Are we good with that? Okay. We'll take Senate position.
I could clarify, some of the confusion is because I think some judicial districts have ways to offer more, but the base salary provided in statute is the same for all of them, and that might be where the confusion is. So the comparable thing is the base salary provided in statute. That's the right idea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if I may, is that comparable to what is currently in place underneath the executive order? Thank you. And just out of curiosity, maybe more so than anything.
Okay, we'll keep moving. Reporting requirements. I'm not going to read through all of that. just take a look and see if there's a lot of, if you see any differences. They look very, very similar.
I think I had noticed that in the reporting requirements, it would be important to have the report made to not only the House committee that's been looking at the office, but the Senate committee. And I think that would require a change in the bill to include. So I'm glad you bring that up. Page 5, lines 25 and 26, to change it from the Senate Standing Committee on Public Health and Welfare and change it to the Standing Senate Committee on Judiciary. And it would also be to the House of Representatives Standing Committee on Child Welfare and Foster Care. That's already in the bill. And we would change lines 25 to 26 to make it Senate Standing Committee on Judiciary rather than on Public Health and Welfare.
Yeah, it would be captured there, but yeah, I don't mind changing that if that's your preference. And we actually could do. I also conference occasionally with health, with Senate Health, so we could leave both of them. We could leave health in there and add judiciary, Senate Judiciary. No, this really does pertain more to the judicial
I
process.
mean, we're talking about processes and
Mm-hmm.
subpoenas and
Yeah.
Investigations, but
Let's just replace that, and then health could be
Right.
captured.
in the rest.
Okay. Well, do you have?
It's probably easier since we're in the House Bill 2070 to just leave that, and because I think they're pretty much the same and it's itemized there, so a little easier um, for viewing. But
Yeah, I'm okay with that language. Okay. Okay. Okay.
okay,
Okay. Purpose of the office.
so I'm glad we're kind of going through this because I also had a thought. Purpose of the office, kind of definitional wise or definition wise, on page 2 of 2070, it talks about, if this is where we are, for child maltreatment prevention. And if we're talking about, vagueness, I think that's a bit vague. And again, to provide proper guardrails and yet authority for the advocate, that I would suggest, the Senate would offer that removing for child maltreatment prevention and make it just remove maltreatment prevention.
Would you just consider taking the House position? The House.
Where's that in the bill?
Well, it's written here on the comparison.
I think child mistreatment or child maltreatment is used more than once, if I recall, if the revisor knows. Is that the only it's on page 1 of the House 2443 at lines 27, 28. And it's also in the 2070 at line 43 on page 2. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And on 2443, it's page 1, line 27.
Yeah, we just have the emphasis. Okay. So
So
let's
just leave it in 2070, but remove child maltreatment.
Yes, otherwise they're the
Okay.
same.
Okay.
Okay, interactions with court and the judicial branch.
And that's what we had talked about earlier about privilege and immunity that,
Okay, he's working on that then.
yes,
Okay,
that the court, if the court determined it was necessary on a case by case basis,
and that would,
if there was a motion to do so.
and confidentiality there. I'm sorry.
Too vague. I mean, what's that mean? Could mean anything.
Okay, so confidentiality is, we're waiting on that as well.
Yes.
And then that is the appointment process. And then we both agree on the prohibiting retaliation.
Right. Senator Wilborn had to go gavel out the Senate so we could adjourn, but we do still have a quorum in our committee here. Unless you want to recess for a minute and wait for him to come back.
Yeah, let me just confirm. kind of at a impasse at this point to.
Let's call it a good stopping place. I
Mhm.
think we've made really good progress and there's no impasse.
Well, I guess you weren't part of our discussion.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so it's a good stopping point. We've got uh, part of our team can't stay later today, so would you consider 9 o'clock tomorrow morning?
Let me confer with calendars on this side. As I shared with colleagues, that this would be a priority since we're pretty far down the road, it seems, on this, and it's been a priority of the legislature this session and last session to get something accomplished, and I want to keep working on that. So it's a priority for the Senate, and I suggest that we adjourn now and we reconvene at 9 tomorrow, if that works for your side.
It does. I don't have an opportunity to make an announcement from the floor.
I think the email going out is enough proper notice,
Okay.
and it'll be on the website.
Okay.
Yeah, floor notice is kind of a courtesy.
9 a.m. So we are adjourning today and see you at 9 a.m.
At 9
And
a.m. and we will
we'll-
need a room. Is this the room?
Uh,
We don't know yet.
It's up to us. And she
Well, that's
is
true,
waiting
yeah.
to hear whether we're meeting tomorrow yet or not.
So that is right. You need to call the conference committee, so I'll let you do that.
Yep. We'll let you know. But we'll try to get this room again.
So we're adjourning until 9 tomorrow.
Yes. We're adjourned till 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Thank you. Thanks everyone
Thank
for
you.
your work.